Anniversaries are funny like that. They're supposed to be these warm little checkpoints where two people look at each other and think, still us, still okay, still breathing. Ours started that way. The restaurant was the quiet, expensive kind. Dim lights, soft music, waiters moving like sound was illegal. Everything tasteful, which usually means overpriced and emotionally intimidating. My wife Claire looked perfect. Not nice. Perfect. Hair set, makeup effortless, dress elegant, smile carefully measured like she practiced it in a mirror while correcting the world in her head. She kept touching my arm as we walked in, like I was an accessory she wanted the room to notice. Smile, she whispered. I am smiling. No, smile like you mean it. Anniversary rule number 1. Perform happiness on command. At the table were her sister Tina, Tina's husband Mark, and two of Claire's friends, Emily and Jordan. Claire raised her glass first, because of course she did. She loved a toast the way some people love oxygen. To us, she said, voice smooth and bright. Another year, another chance to grow. Cheers, Tina said, clinking glasses like she was trying to hammer a nail. Mark nodded politely, as if he'd been trained for this moment. Emily leaned in, eyes shining. Anniversary dinners are so romantic. Like, you two are literally goals. Then Claire looked at me. And I have a gift. I frowned slightly. We said no gifts. You said no gifts, she corrected gently, still smiling. She pulled out a small wrapped box. Light, book-shaped. Everyone leaned in like something meaningful was about to happen. Oh my God, Emily whispered. Open it, open it. Here? I asked. Yes, Claire said. Now, I want everyone to see it. That should have told me everything. I unwrapped it slowly, mostly to buy time. A hardcover book. Clean white cover. Bold title, How to Become the Partner She Deserves. For a second, nothing moved. No explosion, no shouting. Just quiet inside my chest. Tina laughed too quickly, then coughed. Mark stared at his drink like it contained instructions. Emily giggled. Jordan smiled the careful smile of someone pretending this is cute. Claire tilted her head, proud of herself. I thought it was perfect, she said. For who? I asked lightly. For you, obviously. She leaned closer. Read the title out loud. So I did. How to Become the Partner She Deserves. Emily clapped softly. That's hilarious. Jordan nodded like self-improvement was adorable. Mark cleared his throat. That's thoughtful. Claire turned to him instantly, grateful for the support. Right? I mean, relationships take work. Absolutely, Mark said, and I could hear the subtext. Please don't drag me into this. Claire looked back at me. I underlined a few parts for you, the important ones. I believe you can still change, she said, loud enough for the table. There it was, the real gift. A public announcement that I wasn't enough, wrapped in politeness and served with wine. Wow, I said calmly. A book. It's an investment, she replied. In our future. She kissed my cheek, light, ceremonial. A stamp on a document already signed. Happy anniversary, she whispered. And in that moment, something became perfectly clear. This wasn't a gift, it was a sentence, carefully wrapped so no one could call it cruel. I smiled. I don't panic in public. I take notes. Thank you, I said. That's very you. Her eyes narrowed slightly. What does that mean? It means you always know how to make an entrance. Nervous laughter around the table. Relief. Conversation restarted like nothing happened. Dinner continued. Small talk, fake smiles, safe topics. Claire looked relaxed, almost pleased, like she'd just made an important move, and I'd accepted it. I paid the bill, not to impress her, just because I wasn't letting her buy the night she put me on display. On the drive home, she hummed softly, fingers tapping the dashboard. How did you like it? She asked. The dinner? The book. It's a lot. I just want us to be better, she said. She meant me. We both knew it. At home, she disappeared into the bathroom to remove the perfect wife costume. I stood in the living room holding the book, suddenly very aware of how quiet the house felt. When she came back in a robe, she looked at it and then at me. "You'll start reading tonight?" she asked. "You want an honest answer? I want to know you're taking this seriously." I opened the book. There were underlines everywhere, entire sentences boxed, notes in the margins in her neat handwriting. And the chapters she'd highlighted weren't romantic. They weren't how to communicate. They weren't how to love. They were titles like How to Become Worthy of Respect, Why Women Lose Interest, How Not to Be an Emotional Burden. I looked up at Claire. She smiled faintly. "Those are the important ones." "Right," I said, voice calm. Because this wasn't guidance, it was a diagnosis. I flipped another page, and something thin slipped out and fell near my shoe. A receipt, small cafe, 3 days ago, 2 drinks, 1 dessert, 7:42 p.m. I'd never been there. Claire watched me pick it up without blinking. "What's that?" she asked casually. "A receipt." She shrugged. "Oh, must have been used as a bookmark." Claire walked closer, reached for the book. "Give me that. You're already overthinking." I didn't move. "Claire," I said softly. Her jaw tightened. "Don't start." "I'm not starting anything," I said. "I'm holding a receipt from a place I've never been, inside a book you bought to tell me I'm a disappointment, and you're asking me not to overthink. That's impressive." She exhaled sharply through her nose. "It's not like that." "Okay," I said, nodding. "Then what is it like?" She crossed her arms. "You always do this. You take something positive and turn it into a problem." "A book called How to Become the Partner She Deserves is positive?" I asked. "It's constructive," she snapped. "Constructive," I repeated, amused. "Like a demolition crew." Her eyes flashed. "If you took feedback like an adult—" "I do," I said. "I'm taking it right now. I'm just noticing something." She relaxed, satisfied, and walked toward the bedroom. "Try not to spiral tonight," she said. The house felt colder after she left. I looked at the receipt again. 3 days ago, she told me she was tired, needed quiet, didn't want to talk. I made dinner, cleaned up, gave her space like a supportive husband. She had dessert with someone else. I laughed under my breath. Not because it was funny, because the alternative was anger. And I don't do impulsive. I do precise. I folded the receipt and put it in my wallet. Not evidence, not yet, just a reminder. The anniversary gift wasn't a book. It was the first crack in the mask. And once you see a crack, you start looking for the rest. The next morning, Claire behaved like nothing unusual had happened, which, in our marriage, was never a comforting sign. Normal didn't mean peaceful. Normal meant something had already been decided somewhere I wasn't invited. She was in the kitchen before me, dressed for work, coffee already poured, phone face down on the table. Claire never put her phone face down unless she wanted the room to know she wasn't hiding anything. That's the funny thing about people who hide things. They love symbolic honesty. "Morning," she said lightly. "Morning." She slid a mug toward me. I added less sugar. "You said you're trying to cut back." I hadn't said that, but correcting small lies before coffee feels like arguing with gravity, so I let it go. "Thanks," I said. She smiled, satisfied, like she'd scored a tiny moral victory before 8 a.m. We ate in silence for a minute. Not hostile silence, the organized, adult kind. The kind therapists probably describe as functional distance and normal people call the beginning of the end. "So," she said finally, stirring her coffee even though there was nothing left to dissolve. "Did you read any of it?" "The book?" "Yes, the book." I took a slow sip. I skimmed. "And?" "And I learned I'm an emotional burden," I said. "Very educational." Her lips pressed together, not angry, just disappointed in my failure to be sincerely grateful for criticism wrapped in hardcover. "You always turn things into jokes," she said. "Only the painful ones." "That's exactly the problem." I nodded slowly. "Good to know." She watched me for a second longer than necessary, waiting maybe for defensiveness, for an argument, for proof that the book was justified. When none came, she looked almost unsettled. People who prepare for conflict don't know what to do with peace. It ruins their script. She stood, grabbed her bag, checked her phone, quick, angled away, automatic. Then the bright, public smile returned. "I'll be late tonight," she said casually. "Meeting ran over yesterday, so we're finishing today." "Of course," I said. She paused, just a fraction, like she'd expected a question. I didn't give her one. "Okay," she said, softer. "See you." The door closed. I finished my coffee, rinsed the mug, and stood there a moment longer than necessary, staring at nothing in particular. 3 days ago she'd been too tired to talk. Now she was late because of meetings. Same calm tone, same neat explanations, same invisible wall between words and truth. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I went to work, answered emails, sat through a meeting that could have been replaced by a single sentence and a polite apology, pretended spreadsheets mattered, all the normal things people do when their personal life is slowly catching fire in complete silence. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A message from Claire. "Don't forget to read chapter 3. It's important. No heart, no emoji, just instructions." I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then typed back, "Yes, ma'am." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "You're impossible." I smiled slightly and put the phone down, because something small but important had shifted. For months, every strange feeling I had turned into a conversation where I somehow apologized. Every doubt became proof of my insecurity. Every discomfort got diagnosed as my emotional weakness. But the receipt in my wallet sat quietly in my pocket like a second heartbeat. When I got home that evening, the apartment was empty. No lights, no music, no Claire moving around with the purposeful energy of someone improving the atmosphere. Just stillness. I loosened my tie, dropped my keys on the table, and stood there listening to the silence like it might explain something if I waited long enough. I walked to the living room, sat on the couch, and pulled the book toward me. If she wanted me to read it so badly, fine. Chapter 3 was titled, "Why Effort Without Growth Still Leads to Loss." Encouraging. I read a few pages, then a few more. It wasn't terrible, honestly. Generic, sure. Full of confident sentences that sounded meaningful until you looked at them too closely. But the underlines were the interesting part. Claire hadn't highlighted hopeful lines. She'd marked verdicts. Women don't leave suddenly. They leave after years of feeling unseen. I leaned back slowly, because this wasn't self-help. It was a closing argument, and she'd already decided the verdict. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Claire, running later than expected. "Don't wait up." Of course. I looked at the clock. 7:41 p.m. For a moment, something almost funny crossed my mind. Just a coincidence, just numbers. I opened my wallet anyway. The receipt still sat there, folded once. 7:42 p.m., 2 drinks, 1 dessert. I let out a quiet breath that wasn't quite a laugh. Patterns are strange things. Once you notice one, your brain starts connecting dots whether you want it to or not. I put the wallet away and stared at the book again. For months, I'd been trying to fix conversations, fix moods, fix something I couldn't even clearly name. But sitting there in the quiet apartment, one thought settled in with uncomfortable clarity. Maybe the problem wasn't that I was failing the marriage. Maybe the marriage had already decided to fail me. I closed the book gently and rested my hand on the cover. Not angry, not heartbroken, just thinking. Because for the first time in a long while, I wasn't trying to prove anything to Claire. I was trying to understand something for myself. And once that shift happens, once you stop asking, "How do I fix this?" and start asking what is actually happening, the whole story begins to look different. Outside, a car passed. Headlights slid across the ceiling and disappeared. The apartment went dark again. And in the quiet, a simple, uncomfortable question finally formed clearly in my mind. If she's already planning a life without me, why am I still planning one with her? I didn't have the answer yet, but for the first time, I was ready to find it. Claire came home a little after 10. Not loud, not dramatic, just the quiet click of the lock, the soft sound of heels on the floor, the faint scent of perfume that didn't belong to evenings spent in conference rooms. I stayed on the couch, the book still open in my hands like I'd been reading for hours, and definitely not thinking about timestamps on cafe receipts. "Hey," she said gently, slipping off her shoes. "You're still up." Revolutionary, I know. A small smile. Careful. Measured. She watched me the way people watch dogs they're not sure will bite. "How was your day?" she asked. "Educational," I said. "Apparently effort without growth leads to loss." Her eyes flicked to the book. "You read it." "I'm trying to evolve." "That's good," she said softly. She disappeared into the bathroom, and I listened to running water filling the silence between us. Marriage, at some point, becomes mostly about listening to doors close. When she came back, she didn't sit next to me. She chose the armchair across the room, distance disguised as comfort. "We should talk soon," she said. "There are sentences that arrive already cold." That was one of them. "About what?" I asked. "About us." A small pause. Professional. Prepared. "I think we both feel things have changed." Both. Shared responsibility makes guilt easier to distribute. "Things change," I said. "Yes," she nodded. "And sometimes people grow in different directions." I almost laughed. Not because it was surprising, because I'd already read that sentence, just formatted differently in chapter 3. "Did the book mention that part?" I asked. "Or was that from the sequel?" She exhaled, tired in the theatrical way. "I'm trying to be honest." "Honesty is new," I said. "I support it." Her jaw tightened slightly. Not anger, loss of control. "For a long time," she continued carefully, "I felt alone in this marriage." There it was, step 1 of the exit speech. Establish long-term suffering. "I didn't want to hurt you," she added. Step 2, frame departure as kindness. I kept hoping things would change. Step 3, make the ending sound inevitable. I nodded slowly, like a reasonable adult in a calm documentary about emotional collapse. "That must have been hard," I said. She blinked. That wasn't the reaction she rehearsed. "Yes," she said quietly. Silence stretched between us. Not loud, just full. "You deserve to be happy," she added. And there it was, the most generous-sounding goodbye. "You too," I said. Something flickered across her face. Confusion, maybe, like I'd skipped a page in the script she handed me. "I'm not saying anything final," she said quickly. "I just think we need space to think." Space. The polite word for distance that never closes again. "How much space?" I asked. "I don't know yet." Of course not, because the real timeline probably didn't belong to her alone. I nodded once. "Okay." She studied my face, searching for cracks, for emotion, for proof she still mattered enough to hurt me. "What are you thinking?" she asked softly. "That you sound very prepared," I said. Her eyes sharpened. "Prepared?" "Like you've had this conversation before," I said. "Just not with me." Silence again. Longer this time. "You're imagining things," she said. "Probably," I agreed easily. And that's when something subtle shifted in the room. For months, every difficult talk ended the same way. Me explaining, her diagnosing, me apologizing. But now there was nothing to fix, nothing to defend, nothing to beg for. Just two people sitting across from each other in a room that suddenly felt too organized to still be called love. She looked away first. "I'm tired," she said quietly. Can we continue this later? Sure. She stood, hesitated like she might say something softer, then didn't. The bedroom door closed, and the apartment returned to silence. I stayed on the couch a long time after that, not thinking in clear sentences, just letting pieces fall into place without forcing them. Around midnight, my phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. Normally, I ignore those. Telemarketers, surveys, reminders that somewhere someone thinks I need extended car warranty coverage. But something made me pick it up. One message, no greeting, no name, just a photo. Claire, sitting at a cafe table, the same cafe from the receipt. Across from her, a man I'd never seen before, not touching, not obvious, just leaning slightly closer than strangers do. Smiling in that quiet, familiar way people smile when conversation doesn't need effort. The timestamp on the photo, 3 nights ago, 7:43 p.m., 1 minute after the receipt. My chest didn't explode. No cinematic heartbreak, no dramatic music swelling in the background. Just stillness. Another message appeared. Thought you should know. That was it. No explanation. No signature. I stared at the screen for a long time, not angry, not even surprised. I locked the phone and set it down carefully, like sudden movements might break something invisible. Across the hallway, the bedroom door stayed closed. Soft light underneath. Claire moving inside a life that, piece by piece, no longer included me. For months, I'd been trying to understand what was wrong with us. Turns out, the better question was much simpler. Not what happened, but when did she leave? And why didn't she tell me I was already alone? I didn't confront her that night. Not because I was scared. Because timing matters. And midnight arguments rarely improve anyone's character. So I went to sleep. Claire was already in bed, turned slightly away, breathing slow and even. The peaceful sleep of someone whose conscience had a very flexible work schedule. I lay down beside her and stared at the ceiling for maybe 5 minutes. The next morning she acted normal again. Coffee, soft voice, casual questions. Did you sleep okay? Like a man evolving, I said. A faint smile. Careful approval. She liked when I sounded manageable. I might be late again tonight, she added, stirring her coffee. Busy week, I said. Yes, very. She answered without hesitation. At work, I didn't check the photo again. Didn't zoom in. Didn't analyze the guy's haircut like it contained emotional clues. Instead, I opened a browser and searched for something far less dramatic. Divorce lawyer. Not romantic, not cinematic, just practical. By lunch, I had 3 numbers saved and 1 consultation booked for Friday. The receptionist's voice was calm, polite, completely uninterested in my emotional journey. Perfect. Exactly the energy I needed. That evening, Claire came home earlier than expected. Hey, she said, stepping inside. You're home. I live here, I reminded her. A small laugh, slightly forced. She walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, stared inside like the answer to life might be hiding behind the milk. How was work? She asked. Productive. Good. Then she tried again, softer. We should probably talk soon. We did talk, I said. You said you need space. I said okay. Very efficient meeting. Her shoulders tightened. Efficiency wasn't the reaction she wanted. I just don't want this to become cold, she said. I leaned against the counter. Claire, it's been cold for months. I'm just finally dressing for the weather. That landed. Not loud. Just accurate. She looked at me carefully, like she was recalculating something. You seem different, she said. Reading expands the mind. This isn't a joke. I know. Another pause. Longer. Are you angry? She asked quietly. No. Really? Really. That confused her more than anger would have, because anger means attachment. Calm means distance. And distance is hard to control. Over the next few days, I watched instead of reacting. Patterns are easy to see once you stop arguing with reality. She texted more, smiled at her phone, started using phrases like, "People grow apart. Life changes. Nothing is anyone's fault." All very peaceful. All very rehearsed. Meanwhile, I met the lawyer. Mid-50s, calm eyes, no sympathy voice. He looked through basic information, nodded a few times, asked practical questions. "How long married?" 7 years. "Children?" "No." "Assets, accounts, apartment lease." All the unromantic details that decide real endings. Finally, he leaned back. "Do you want to try to save the marriage?" he asked. "Or prepare to leave it?" "Prepare," I said. He nodded once like I'd chosen a menu item. "Then we move quietly," he said. "No confrontation until paperwork is ready. Understand?" "Very much." At home, Claire seemed lighter. That's the strange part nobody talks about. When one partner is secretly leaving, they often become nicer. Less tension, more politeness, almost kind. One night she even touched my arm during dinner and said, "I'm glad we're being calm about this." Calm. Like we were discussing furniture, not a marriage. "Me too," I said. Friday night, she said she was meeting friends. "Just Emily and Jordan," she added casually. "Of course." "Have fun," I said. No questions, no suspicion, just permission she didn't need. She studied my face for a second, searching for something. Jealousy, maybe. Pain. Nothing. "Thanks," she said softly, almost disappointed. The door closed behind her. I waited 10 minutes. Then I opened my laptop, pulled up the photo again, and looked at the cafe name. 5 minutes later, I was in my car. The cafe was small. Warm lights. Couples talking quietly. The kind of place people choose when they don't want to be seen loudly. I stayed across the street, didn't go in, didn't need to. Because 20 minutes later, she walked inside. And 5 minutes after that, he arrived. Same man from the photo, same relaxed smile. They hugged. Not friendly, not formal. And that was enough. I sat in the car a few more minutes, then started the engine and drove home. Slow. Calm, like nothing in the world had changed, because in a way, nothing had. The truth had already been there. I'd just finally seen it clearly. When Claire came home later that night, I was on the couch watching something meaningless on TV. She stepped inside quietly, studying me. "Hey," she said. "Hey. How was your evening?" "Peaceful." She nodded slowly, like she was measuring the word. "Mine too," she said. I almost smiled at that, not because it hurt, because the performance was becoming predictable, and predictable things are easier to end. That night, lying in the dark beside her, one simple thought stayed steady in my mind. She wasn't trying to fix the marriage. She was trying to exit it without looking like the one who left. And now that I understood the game, I could finally decide how it ends. The next 2 weeks were quiet. Claire settled into her new routine like she'd been rehearsing it for months. Late evenings, soft smiles at her phone, careful kindness toward me, the kind people show when they've already made a decision and are just waiting for the paperwork of life to catch up. I matched the calm. No arguments, no questions, no emotional speeches that start with "after everything we've been through" and end with someone crying in a kitchen. The lawyer moved faster than I expected. Documents drafted, accounts reviewed, options explained in clear, boring language that had nothing to do with love and everything to do with outcomes. At home, Claire became almost gentle. One evening she made dinner, actually cooked. Pasta, the expensive kind that pretends flour has a personality. I thought we could try. "Being normal," she said carefully. "We are normal," I said. Statistically average emotional collapse. A small smile. Tired, but real. For a second, just a second, I saw the woman she used to be, before everything turned into quiet distance and polite exits. That second passed quickly. "I don't want us to hate each other," she said. "We won't," I answered. And that was the truth. 3 days later, the final documents were ready. I signed where the lawyer pointed. "Do you want to tell her before filing?" he asked. "No, I have a better idea," I said. That same evening, Claire mentioned something casually while scrolling her phone. "Next Friday, we should probably do something," she said. Our anniversary dinner got weird. "Sure," I said. "Let's do dinner." Relief flashed across her face too quickly to hide, because in her version of the story, this dinner was where she would finish the script. She had no idea she wasn't the writer anymore. Friday arrived fast. She dressed carefully that evening, elegant, controlled, emotionally appropriate for a woman planning a graceful goodbye. "You look nice," I said. "Thank you," she answered softly. "You too." We drove in near silence, not uncomfortable, just finished. The same restaurant, same lighting, same round tables. Symmetry matters in good endings. During dinner, we talked about safe things. Work, Tina's new apartment, a movie neither of us really watched, two polite strangers performing the memory of a marriage. Finally, she put her glass down. There it was, her moment. "I've been thinking a lot," she began gently. Of course she had. "I don't want to hurt you," she continued, "but I think we both know this isn't working anymore." Careful tone, measured pauses, exactly the speech she practiced in the mirror. I nodded once, calm, agreeable. She blinked, thrown off by the lack of resistance. "I want us to end this with respect," she said quietly. "Respect is good," I agreed. Silence. She was waiting for emotion, for pain, for something she could comfort. Instead, I reached beside my chair and picked up a small wrapped box. Her eyes flickered in surprise. "I got you something too," I said. Confusion first, then a soft, relieved smile. Because in her mind, this meant sentiment, memories, a gentle goodbye gift. "Thank you," she said, almost warm. "You didn't have to." She unwrapped it slowly. Same size, same shape. A book. Her smile widened slightly, touched by symmetry she thought she understood. Then she read the title. Her expression didn't change immediately. It just paused. Because inside the cover wasn't a message, wasn't a photo, wasn't nostalgia. Just a clean stack of legal pages, divorce papers, signed, ready, and a single note clipped to the front. She read it silently. Then again. Her fingers tightened just a little. The first real emotion of the evening. The note was short. "Thank you for the book. It helped me become a better partner. Better without you." When she finally raised her eyes, the confidence was gone. "You already filed?" she asked, voice thin. "Yes," I said calmly. Silence filled the space between us. "This is sudden," she whispered. I almost smiled. Sudden. 7 years of marriage, months of distance, weeks of preparation. And to her, this was sudden. "I thought we were going to talk," she said. "We are talking," I replied gently. "I'm just a few steps ahead in the conversation." Her eyes searched my face desperately now, looking for the man who used to wait for her decisions. He wasn't there anymore. She kept staring at the papers like they might rearrange themselves into something less final. People think endings are loud, doors slamming, voices breaking, tears doing cinematic work. Real endings are quieter. Just paper on a table and the sudden understanding that nothing you say will move it. "You planned this," she said slowly. "Yes." No anger in my voice. No victory either. Just a fact. "For how long?" she asked. "A while." Her lips parted slightly, like more words were supposed to come out but didn't get permission. "I was going to talk to you tonight," she whispered. "I know." That was the moment it landed for her. She was supposed to be first, supposed to control the story, supposed to leave gently, kindly, reasonably, with me nodding like a cooperative background character. Instead, the script had changed without asking her, and she hated that more than the ending itself. "You could have just told me," she said, voice shaking now. "We could have done this peacefully." We are doing it peacefully, I said. She looked up sharply, eyes bright with the first real emotion of the night. This isn't peaceful. No, I agreed softly. It's quiet. Different thing. Around us, the restaurant kept living its normal life. Glasses clinking, someone laughing too loudly, a waiter explaining dessert like sugar could fix anything. None of it touched our table. Claire's fingers rested on the edge of the papers, but she didn't move them, didn't push them away either. What changed? She asked finally. I thought about lying, about giving her something poetic, something that would make the moment feel meaningful instead of simple. But the truth was easier. I stopped trying to convince you to stay, I said. We sat there a little longer, two calm strangers sharing the remains of a life that had already finished. Then the waiter came with the check, perfectly timed like the universe had good manners. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. We stood near the car for a moment, neither of us rushing to say the last sentence people think they're supposed to say. Claire hugged herself lightly against the cold. So, this is it, she said. It is. Another small nod. She looked at me one last time, searching for something. Anger, regret, hesitation. All she found was quiet. I hope you find what you're looking for, she said. I already did, I answered. She didn't ask what. Maybe she understood. Maybe she didn't want to. After a second, she got into the car. I watched the headlights disappear down the street until the night looked normal again. Then I stood there alone in the quiet parking lot, breathing air that suddenly felt lighter. For a while, I thought the most important moment of our anniversary was the book she gave me. But standing there in the silence, I understood the truth. The real gift wasn't the book. It was the exit. And for the first time in a long time, nothing inside me wanted to go back. A few weeks later, the silence settled into something permanent. Claire moved out before the paperwork was even finished. Not dramatically, just boxes, careful scheduling, polite messages about logistics. By the end of the month, she was already living with the man from the cafe. No denial, no explanation, just a quiet transition into the life she'd been preparing long before the anniversary dinner. I didn't hear that from her. I heard it from Mark. Then he told me the truth in the same uncomfortable tone people use when they hate being part of someone else's story. He'd been the one who sent the photo. He'd seen Claire at the cafe by accident that night, sitting too close to someone who clearly wasn't a stranger. After the anniversary dinner, after the book, the smile, the applause, he said he couldn't unsee the look on my face, sent it quietly, and stayed out of everything else. I just thought you should know, he said again at the end of the call. The divorce finalized faster than I expected. No fights, no courtroom drama, just signatures, dates, and the official confirmation that something which had been over for a long time was now legally finished too. As for me, nothing cinematic happened. No sudden transformation, no dramatic revenge success story, because in the end, the most important thing that happened after our story ended wasn't where she went. It was that I finally stopped waiting for someone who had already left. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.